Yeah. I'm in office today. I
Okay.
made sure I don't travel today. Otherwise, in travel, it would have been very difficult.
Good, good. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Okay, so the recording has started, sir. So we are good to go.
All right, all right. So we'll start. So good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to the seventh episode of SCM Talk Show, Season 5. If you attended the last episode was on workforce development for an efficient supply chain. And Marian Ross, who is very close colleague of ours, and she was also on the Apex board. She actually gave that talk show. But the title of this episode is very interesting, more interesting. That is green mobility. I think everyone is talking about green nowadays. So a lot of we're talking about in terms of vehicles mobility. We are of course talking about EVs. We are talking about hydrogen. We are talking about PNGs and LNGs and LPGs. So I think there are a whole lot of everything we're talking about. So I think we will know more from the expert, what this green mobility is all about and what is going to be the future. So the topic has been chosen to tap experience of the speaker. As usual, this session will also be recorded and made available for free on our mobile app as well as YouTube channel. So if people who have missed can actually see this talk show later on also. And like our earlier practice, we are putting everyone on listen only mode. And I'm sure you will have a lot of questions because this is a topic of great interest. It impacts every one of us, all of us. So I think we will follow a practice like what we've been following every time. You submit your questions in the chat box, okay? And we will take this question towards the end. If time permits, we will take at the end, okay, depending on the priority. So let me introduce Mr. Maqsood Shaikh. It's my pleasure to introduce him. He is the CEO and the Managing Director of Ultra Gas and Energy Limited. He is an electrical engineering graduate from University of Mumbai and alumnus of IIM Kolkata, Calcutta, in fact, not Kolkata, Calcutta, with 25 years of experience in utility management, that is electricity, water and gas, and in more specific sourcing of natural gas and utilization, sales and marketing, business development and operations and maintenance of natural gas infrastructure. So he's extensively worked with countries regulator on gas, on natural gas in India, and part of various committees of Ministry of Petroleum, Natural Gas, uh, uh, Petroleum and Natural Gas Regulatory Board that issues various regulatory guidelines. So prior to Ultra Gas Energy, he has contributed extensively to growth of companies like Gujarat Gas Limited, Schlumberger, Asian Brown Brewery in various leadership roles. So apart from his professional endeavor, we feel privileged to share that he is certified ornithologist. So I'm sure this word is new to many of you. So ornithologist is a person who studies birds. So I think he knows a lot about birds. So if someone is interested to have a conversation with him, you can take, we can take it offline and have a nice chat with him. I think so. He also is a life member of Bombay Natural History Society. And he is an ardent wildlife photographer also for 19 years, having interest in avians and felines, right? So, I mean, he has a lot of interest in the nature. And I'm sure I missed many more achievements of Maqsood. Anything that I missed, Maqsood, that you would like to add?
There is one stint which I want people to know that apart from being in nature and trying to study electrical engineering and then going to the B school, I've spent almost 6 to 8 months in Tata Institute of Fundamental Research as
Ah,
a
okay.
as a research pursuant. I was working on a space physics research group. There is a SPRG group, and we were making Gauguin-Muller counter. This was
Okay.
immediately after my graduation, Ravindra ji. that I got this stint. I got enrolled for pre-PhD, and we were working on Muller counter. So it was very exciting to work in that space where your design was to go in insert 2B. The payload was to be put on insert 2B so that the dark matter or the dark stars could be mapped. And this was a joint venture project between ISRO and NASA. And a lot of work was done subsequently, but I moved out. I took a path of B school as I wanted to earn more money than being a research scientist. So that part was not set. So I thought people should know that I have some bent of scientific attitude in life.
Yeah, that's when we were in schools, so my master's also was on lasers, okay, and
Oh,
it was on application of lasers on composite materials, which are FRP, fiber reinforced plastics.
right.
And I think that was more intended towards defense applications. But anyway, that's a history. That's really history. So I actually worked with very powerful lasers in the past, yeah, in
Oh,
my lab. Yeah. So
that's
that was,
interesting.
yeah. I think so. I think we'll move to the subject here. So first of all, I would like to thank Maqsood. I mean, your very, very busy schedule and for accepting our invitation to share your industry and practice-oriented insight with our listeners. And I think I know you travel a lot, so you have a very busy schedule. And as I said, you ensure that you don't travel today for this talk show. So thank you
Yeah,
so
because
much.
otherwise, Ravindra ji, what happens in travel? Signal drops. You cannot be assured of the signal hitting your handphone and the
Right,
Wi-Fi going down. You are in an airport. You are in a public place. There's a lot
right,
of chaos. So I wanted to
right.
have a very silent engagement with you, so
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
people are benefited, so that they
Yeah,
understand what we are talking.
yeah. Thank you so much. So I'm actually going to Kathmandu tomorrow. I land at about 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock. I have a meeting, so I'm worried about the signals. Yeah, actually. So if you're on the road, on the flight, and I mean, you are really worried about the signals.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. So without wasting your precious time, Maqsood, let me come to today's topic directly. I think you've been actually pushing LNG, liquefied natural gas, over other options, other green options. I mean, I've been hearing more about EVs. I've been more hearing about hydrogen, and there are debates about whether EVs are really green or not, because the energy that you generate to charge EVs, if that is not
Yeah.
green, okay, if that is
Correct.
not green, then again, I think EV is not going to be that green. But if let's say if you charge batteries using solar power or something, that then probably it will be more green. So I would ask you to question, why is LNG being pushed by you and not hydrogen, for green mobility?
Okay, so first, let me put some few disclaimers. This engagement is purely from industry perspective of understanding. I will try and hold myself certain information which currently is confidential in terms of getting it, go to market for our next phase. But I would be generic. I will be very open. What is happening in this space of mobility? When sometimes, yesterday there was a committee to be formed in Mumbai to stop flying of petrol and diesel vehicles. So such abrupt things keeps coming up without thinking that there are over 20 lakh vehicles flying on the road. So it's important that everybody, when they are speaking, they should be very sensible in even contemplating what thoughts are coming in the mind. So why LNG and why not others? First, let me classify the vehicles which mobility are we referring? So you have mobility in terms of vehicular traffic, you have mobility in terms of locomotives. We are not talking about locomotives, we are on road. We are talking about road transport and not aviation also in current context. My push is mobility, that too in heavy duty application. When we say heavy duty, it means trucks. So I will hold my comment, but because the engagement is with you, Ravindra. You may ask me about passenger vehicle. I will give my view, but that's not my expertise. I've been working in this space now. Now it's been donkey's ages that I've been doing only gas. And from gas to LNG, it is nothing but supercooling the gas to become liquefied natural gas to have a heavy density packed fuel available for disposal or usage. Now let's talk about trucking. We will restrict currently towards trucking. We will keep pondering on other passengers, vehicles, and all if at all people are interested. Let's understand what happens in trucking. A normal trucker, when he pulls the material from the port or from its point of origination, aims to do at least 200 to 300 kilometers a day. That is his job. That is his day's job. This 200, 300 kilometers is nothing but classified as long haul trucking. When he wants to do this, he has to look out at 2-3 things. Number one, he cannot do a pit stop every 50 kilometers to refuel his tank. Number two, once he refuels it, he should get a range in which at least he will do 4 to 5 hours of travel without stopping. So he needs 3 or 4 bio breaks and 3 lunch breaks. So that makes almost in 12 hours, 13 hours journey, he needs to do at least 3 hours of continuous driving. Now for that, if he has a pit stop to refuel, he gets further irritated, and it's human to be irritated. Any driver, when he is on the wheel, he wants to have a continuous drive. His aim is to reach the destination at the specified target time. There are incentives given, and it is irrespective of fuel. Now, when you try to change his fuel, his habits seldom die hard. He will not think about if the fuel change will bring a tax on him in his performance. He will reject the fuel. So the selection of fuel is a function of the driver's behavior. The behavior remains the same. He will not do pit stop multiple times. So he would like a fuel which is close to diesel. Right? He has been doing diesel for last 70 years. If he is of that age, or at least the generation has been with diesel. So we need to find a fuel which has density very close to the fuel capacity, carrying density very close to diesel. Hydrogen does not fit because hydrogen is lighter than methane. Second, if you want to carry hydrogen, liquefaction cost is very, very high. The third part is if I want to carry it in compressed form, what another form of natural gas is compressed natural gas, which is CNG. You can have a compressed hydrogen gas, CHG. In that case, the hydrogen for getting to the density of CNG is to be compressed at 700 bar. Currently, the CNG is compressed at 220 to 230 bar. At 700 bar, the risk of a leakage leading to an explosion is very, very high. And the mentality our truckers have is, आँख बंद करके अगर उनको चलाने दोगे, तो they would run the truck, closing their eyes and sleeping on the road if it is safe. So if you allow them to even take the slightest risk of carrying hydrogen, it is nothing but moving bomb. The third part is, what is the viability? Would you push any product or any commodity which is superior? I'm not referring to Apple. Apple is a disruptor. Any other commodity, if you want to do a substitute, unless and until it is at parity or cheaper, inexpensive, people don't tend to embrace it. And that's the fact of life. You remember Ravindra ji, you remember the famous ad of Maruti, kitna deti hai? So what happens, it's very important that when I am pitching a product, I have to be cheaper than it. Today, hydrogen is not. Hydrogen is almost 600 rupees a kg. And it will give you 3 times. So if 3 times of the fuel efficiency of natural gas. So if I normalize it, it is 200 rupees per kg. Now 200 rupees per kg is a direct correlation of 92 rupees per liter of diesel and 84 rupees per kg of LNG.
Yes.
Now, a businessman will always pick LNG as a choice. A, it is cheaper. B, it is safer. And C, the biggest advantage, it is reducing my emissions by 30%. So it's not a magic wand that it will reduce emission to zero, but definitely the CO2 that comes from the tailpipe will go down by 30%, which is better than where diesel is. Hydrogen is much better because it takes the value to zero, but at a cost of almost 2x, which currently the market is not ready. There are so many brands that come up, they get only into the niche. Please remember, truck or transport or logistic as a business does not transport niche. 95% it is commodity for common man. A slight increase of diesel prices of 5 rupees allows Amul to increase the milk packet per liter by 1 rupee. So it is very difficult to increase the price of the commodity for a betterment and allow its embracement by all the customers or all the drivers for that matter. So that's why LNG by itself has gained a position that it is a natural, obvious choice to diesel in terms of price parity or cheaper, in terms of fuel density, in terms of the range and the carriage, and also in terms of emission being far better than what diesel is. So that was a comparison between hydrogen and the choice of LNG. Now, people are looking to, sorry, you're asking something, Ravindra?
No. I say, that's interesting. That's interesting comparison. Yeah. Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
And what happens? I have a choice of EV, but you very aptly said that EV, the cradle to grave, is not clean. Right? We can see that intermediate life of electricity EV looks very, very superlative. That yes, it is green, it is clean, and emission is zero. But the fact is, you have just shifted your problem from your car to a central hub where thermal power plant is generating emission in full blow in that particular area. So what you have done is, instead of spoiling the whole earth, you have made a pegs where you are doing your emission, and India is doing that. So I personally am not a very pro EV, though we have EV plans ourselves for truck also. But the positioning is very important, which you rightly said, that cradle to grave, if it is not clean, technically it is not an ethical way to say that I am into a business in which emissions I am going to assure to my customer will be zero, from 100% of diesel to zero. It's not ethical. You may do it from commercial perspective, but as professionals, we have two sides of the coin. We have to be ethically correct, and we have to be profitable at the end, right?
Absolutely.
So in that, I would profess that EV will take some time. It will come, no doubt. But EV, unless and until you're assured that it is a solar or a wind turbine feed in, or a nuclear, we are talking about a lot of SMRs nowadays. BRC very recently has announced that they would share the technology of small medium reactors. If these are the source, then yes, then EV is to be embraced. EV, if it is from the source, may be comparative to diesel, may not be to LNG, it will be expensive than LNG. But maybe comparative to diesel, still it can be embraced. But the technologies, the spread, the availability of the infrastructure will take some time, Ravindraji, that it will become a popular choice. What has happened? It's like I'm trying to offer a soya milk and an almond milk to somebody who has been taking only cow's milk for his whole life. So he is not used to. He may get some angst. Oh, what is soya milk? I don't know. But when he starts tasting it, he will feel that it's more healthier. And today, soya milk is at parity to cow's milk, not buffalo's milk. Right. So when LNG is compared with diesel, diesel is like that soya milk. It's coming into the play. It's healthier. It is much better in terms of emission. It will become popular. coincidentally, in Gujarat Gas, when we tried to start this in 2016, the government had a bent upon it, but the technologies did not develop to that level. The same thing when we started doing in this setup that we had, we created an ecosystem because while we were trying to push in LNG, there was no demand. So what we did differently, Ravindra ji, we created our own demand. We made a fleet of our own. Then we saw that large brand names were not able to produce LNG trucks. So
Oh, I
we
see.
created our own trucks. So today I'm very proud to say that we have trucks under the brand of Blue Energy Motors, which was
I
created
see.
as part of this ecosystem to make sure we have the machine and we have the man and we have the fuel or the energy. So we had
I see.
energy,
Okay.
the man and the machine. All put together, we created an ecosystem of switching the diesel mobility or the dirty mobility in terms of pollution to a green mobility where I am assuring to the end client through our logistics arm that if we move your freight, we will be issuing you a CO2 reduction of emissions by 30% in terms of tonnage. Each trip multiplied by so many trips for this month, this much of CO2 can be credited to your account in goodwill. Today, these certificates are non-tradable, but I am
Right.
hearing
Right.
that Government of India is working on a CO2 exchange, a CO2 trading exchange. Now, if the carbon trading exchange comes in, there will be a lot of benefit that the customers will get. So from being cheaper, I will be the most preferred fuel for long distance trucking. So I hope that gives the idea to the participants as well as to you why the push for LNG, because it is standing as the best choice today. And I'm giving this disclaimer also. My statement may be good for 3 years, 4 years, 10 years. The day hydrogen becomes comparative to the commodity cost of LNG, it will easily replace because that's law of nature, survival of fittest. And nowadays, fittest doesn't mean that you have to survive around the environment. It means you have to survive in your pockets also. So if hydrogen becomes comparative to LNG, LNG market is out. You will have a replacement fuel from hydrogen from LNG to hydrogen. So how we are protecting ourselves? How are we hedging ourselves for this future risk? The station that the team has designed, the the way it is being put up, it can easily replace from LNG to hydrogen in a span of 1 month. So the assets that are invested are having a natural insurance. There's a natural hedge available.
Great. Good. Thank you so much for such a nice information. I mean, deep insight. We keep hearing about EVs and hydrogen only. We don't hear much about LNG, but very, very good information that you have given. Now, one question I have in mind, how does the cost economics works out? Someone has to move, let's say, currently from diesel to, let's say, LNG. So is it the same engine or different engine, or how does it work out?
Yeah. So barring the engine, the rest of the product remains the same
I
because
see.
you will have the cabin, you will have the tires, the axles, the gearbox, everything remains the same. It is the hearth or the chula of the whole truck is engine, and that changes. So when you talk about a gas engine, it is slightly different than the MPFIs and the CRDIs. Gas engine slightly operates in a different way. And what happens when you are replacing a diesel truck with a natural gas or LNG fired truck, then diesel works on compressible fluid mechanics. So diesel trucks does not have spark plugs.
Right.
But petrol trucks or not trucks, but petrol passenger vehicles, when changes to CNG, actually you need not introduce a spark plug. because naturally petrol's fumes or the petrol gas form is actually ignited. But in diesel, what you do is the piston inside the chamber, the firing chamber, actually starts pushing or compressing the diesel till it reaches its flash point. When the flash point is reached, the diesel ignites and it actually pushes back and gives the thrust to the engine, and hence the torque is generated. So if somebody wants to replace an existing engine with a gas engine, the cost is around 12 lakh rupees. For
I
a
see.
truck of diesel, which is 35 lakhs, 12 lakh rupees, which is almost a third, actually is a replacement cost for the engine. Now, some may find it viable, some may not, but thumb of the rule is if 15 years is the life of the truck, and if you're doing this jargon at 10th year, then 5 years of life you can enjoy lower emission, and certain state allow a rollover of another 10 years if it is a gas engine. So
I see.
legally, the life of the truck becomes 25 years.
I see.
Now
Okay.
this technology of modifying a diesel engine to gas engine has been experimented from 2012 till 2019. It has not been very successful. It's not very exciting. So we as a company have kept it aside. We are not pushing retrofits. That's why I said we brought an Italian design. We are importing the engine, we are importing a lot of the parts. And under the brand of Blue Energy Motors, it has been produced in Pune. These are pure gas engines. That means
I
their
see.
design has been with a spark plug.
I see.
So when they are utilized along with the modernization that has happened, now these engines are almost 2 times of the engine of the diesel. It's 2x. The modernization has brought in a different angle on suspension, a very different cabin. It is a super cooled like the liquid or the fuel. The cabins are air conditioned. Our drivers, when they are driving, they are completely in a very, very protected environment. Their seats are having suspension. So the breaker, the noise of the breaker actually does not translate to the driver. So his back is protected, his spine is protected. So we have gone to the level of the ergonomics to that extent because our drivers would be driving on long distance. And the same technology we have now pushed the industry to follow. So what has happened? Why I'm giving you all this detail, the viewers or the participants should understand that when you switch a commodity, a lot of things grows with it. Like if you remember the Nokia 3310 phone never had GPS. It never
Right.
used to do WhatsApp. But when
Yeah.
Apple came in and Samsung brought in the Android, original Android never had a concept of maps. It was only GPS was brought in. We used to write small codes to ping and get the GPS coordinate. I'm talking about 1998, 99. And when Android came in, they brought a platform in which the user interface became very good. And when Apple came in, then they disrupted the whole thing, right? And Samsung is following. Definitely, you have Symbian is out as an operating system, but other
Right.
systems are still Android and the OS is going on. Same way in truck, what is happening? We are obsoleting the old technology in terms of the engagement between the driver, the gear, the steering, and his ergonomics to sit. All this cost actually has taken the truck to be 2x of the diesel truck.
I
Now the
see.
question,
Okay.
obvious question would be, why should I buy a Mercedes when I can get Uber Black? I'm talking about in Mumbai, right? Uber Black is operating in Mumbai. So why should I buy a Mercedes? But shock badi cheez hai, sir. If I want to reduce emission, if my objective is to reduce emission, then I will be forced to buy things even if it is expensive.
Right.
But what
Right.
is important, what people miss is to look only being very myopic and look at what is very near. The near is the capital, but operating cost has to be compared. So what we do is when we propose this concept, we tell end customer, at your end, whatever freight you're paying to the diesel, right? I will cost you the same. I will give you carbon emission certificate. So my freight guy or the end customer who's booking me on freight is done. Now the important part is the transporter. For the transporter, the fuel has been discounted 10% to the diesel prevailing price. But the efficiency of these LNG equivalent to the same rupee I'm spending per kilometers is almost 30% higher. So effectively, guaranteed is 20%. Our experience is 30%. 10% of the fiscal discount that we have given. So anywhere between 30% to 40%, the operating cost goes down. When the operating cost goes down, the payback almost remains the same as the diesel truck. A, you are in green, you will be getting better funding. B, when you move your trucks to your customers, you can issue green certificate, which we are supporting and we are explaining to our freight operators or the transporters how to calculate. We have put in a consultant who is certified by the Ministry of Environment and Forest. He has been, on the rolls of it, and he is assuring that this calculation has been endorsed by the government. This much of emission is reducing. So if I package it out, then overall LNG is still cheaper as compared to its TCU if I compare it with a diesel. The wear and tear of the engine, there is no carbon deposits. You don't have to open the engine every 5th year. We know that we will be not opening our engine for 10 years for sure. And why I'm saying it so vehemently, I have experience of petrol vehicles. They were switched to pure gas engines, like the Tatas and Suzukis that have launched. For the CNG application, people have experience of almost 15 years where the engine was never opened for a boring. There were no carbon deposits on it because the carbon is down by 30% and every carbon actually is accumulated majorly in the tailpipes. So if I see the overall economics, then LNG long distance definitely is better than diesel. Today it is far better than hydrogen. And EVs, if I ignore the cradle to grave issue of 71% coming from the thermal power plant, EVs are still cheaper than the LNG. But provided you are ethical to give the right feed to the charging station or the battery swap station.
Right. So what do you think is the life of LNG mobility when technologies like hydrogen and EVs are evolving very, very fast? And at the same time, we also have power generation from solar and wind and so many other sources.
So let me give some numbers for benefit of understanding. India imports roughly 226 million metric ton of liquid fuel, of which 88 million metric ton is only diesel. Now, when I say import, it is in crude form. We process it ourselves. Most of the processing is done by us. But diesel is around 81 million metric ton per annum. And this number has been growing at 8% year over year. So I would say that almost 10 years back or 12 years back, this number was 40. So the growth will be there. The population growth is commensurating to the growth of fuel. So there is a direct correlation that we have seen. And the population does not seem to be dying out in terms of its growth index in India. So 8% demand for any fuel will be there. So my view is this 8% demand that will come may come from new avenues, whether it is LNG, whether it is EV backed by thermal first, EV backed by wind and then by solar. But what is happening, the mix will always be there. So I was hearing somewhere way back in 1989 when I was a student that CNG has been launched in Surat. by then the Gujarat Gas Company. I never thought I would be part of that company. And when the court order came for Delhi, from Delhi High Court to move all the DTC buses from diesel driven to being on CNG
CNG, yeah.
only on CNG, then what happens is the fear at that time by IOCL, HPCL, everybody was there. Petrol market is going to die. And
Yeah.
coincidentally, the share of petrol market in the energy basket of the India till date is same. So it's always a run for new demand to move to new technologies. And people who have bought this older machine will continue to be there on the time. So my view is 10 years is guaranteed as a professional, I'm saying. It may continue to grow at 8%. It may peak up on the 10th year. It may flatten for how many years? I don't know. Maybe 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. And then it may die out when hydrogen becomes affordable in a decade or 15 years. So that's the cycle. It's a substitute fuel. We have to keep it comparing. And I don't have a crystal ball to tell you or to the
Yeah.
viewers that exactly this much years will happen. If that was the case, I would have predicted in which talk show I would have been with Mr. Ravindra after 10 years.
Yeah, no one can predict, the future. That's very
Exactly.
difficult in this world.
But
Very difficult.
my view is the mix will continue. The ratios may change. Today, LNG is hardly 1 ppm of the total market. We are selling only few tons, few thousand tons, where I'm talking about 81 million metric ton of diesel being sold. So, in order for it to eat up the diesel market and for hydrogen to eat up the whole diesel market and EVs to do, it is a span of 25 years.
So how many, what kind of infrastructure, petrol pumps or whatever LNG pumps will be required? And how much time, I think, if you talk about 25 years kind of thing, how many time it will be required to replace all the, gas station, diesel, pumps?
Okay, so the advantage of LNG is its rangeability. So when a diesel is filled in the truck, roughly 600 kilometers is traversed in one fill. With LNG, the design that we have brought in is 1400 kilometers. So that way, whatever is the requirement, it is half of replacing full. Today there are 65,000 petrol pumps that are serving petrol and diesel. And in order to replace them full, with this range, we will need around, if I say petrol is 40%, then around 36,000 is the diesel requirement. So 36,000, half of it, 18,000 pumps will be required. To build it, it may take almost 10 years, but if there is a special drive, then things may change. You can build 18,000 pumps in 3 to 4 years, but there has to be drive from all the perspectives.
Right. Yep. Yeah. So actually, thanks a lot. So very good insight. And I also heard you with a lot of interest, at Wellinkers when you talked about your new trucks and the automation levels and how do you monitor the drivers and how do you keep track of accidents, and so that was very, very interesting about the technology that you are using in your trucks. Very, very fascinating.
Yeah, the idea is that, as I told you, as you are modernizing the fuel, should we also not modernize the cabin, and also should we not modernize our operations?
Yeah.
And the backbone of AI ML, currently the machine learning is on. We will move to human decisions to AI decisions in a span of by next year. We are already clocked around 20 million kilometers. So as we are approaching 50 million kilometers, we will have a lot of data of behavior of drivers, the roads, the traffic, and everything can be predicted.
Right. So I think we can build algorithms based on that. So
Right.
I think I read your career journey with a lot of interest, but for the benefit of the audience, how did you land up here from engineering?
Okay, that's a very interesting story. So, as a normal college guy, I was waiting for campus recruitment, and I always had that scientific attitude. So, I was picked up by Asha Brown Bovary for their
Uh-huh.
R&D in the Andheri plant. They were
I
looking
see.
for somebody who understands signal processors. Now,
Okay.
DSP in 90s was a buzzword for people who understand the electronics part of it. So they wanted to use a TMS, that is a Texas Instrument device, for cracking power calculations. And I had done a project in my college to do some voice modulation in 1996. That was my final year of engineering. To do voice modulation for command actions. So, like if I speak, it used to convert, create a text, and the text used to hit the routine, and then a print used to come what I have said. So they got fascinated with that, and they said, "Can we build a power multiplier? Simple, V into I in instantaneous, integrated over time, gives nothing but one cycle of energy." So they said, "Can we make a power meter out of it?" I said, "We can." And then they moved me to US on this project. We did a lot of work with some Russian friends and American. So all ABB R&D units collided in US in Raleigh. And for 1.5 years, we worked on it. We designed it. We patented some of the product features. And I brought that product to be marketed in India. So I was the technical support for my marketing team. ABB launched it in 1998, and 99 I was with MSCB chief engineers and started doing all those jargons of electrical world. He said finally, "Kitne mein milta hai?" So that was the question, and it was very expensive meter what people were using. So it took a lot of time, but then always I was trying to push in new things at expensive price, sometimes successful, sometimes failed. And I got an opportunity doing such activities with Schlumberger, which was looking for a product manager to launch their product from France to India. Now that's time when gas got introduced to me. Schlumberger said, apart from excuse me, apart from electricity, we also have water and gas division. BMC at that time was coming on water audit for all its society metering. There was a lot of leakages. So we had certain solution. I built it up. I was in France in Macon, and we built up a solution, brought back, showed it to the municipal commissioner. Then he was very happy. We got a tender, and we were awarded 150 crores. Now my boss said, "Ye ho gaya, what happens to gas? There is a company called Mahanagar Gas. Why don't you go and talk to them?" So we took some solution from Germany. That was the gas base for Schlumberger. We showed them how a city gas distribution regulators work. I started learning about gas then. This was way back in between 2002 to 2008. And in 2008, my colleague, who was the electricity head of India, he moved to Gujarat Gas as general manager commercial. And after
I
2 years,
see.
that in 2008, he got promoted as director commercial. That position became vacant. And
Oh,
he called me. He
I
said, "Now
see.
you understand gas. Do you want to flip the show and come to a utility?" I said, "I've never done utility gas measurement." He said, "You don't have to measure anything. It's all numbers here." So that's the time. Then I thought it's better to know something better. I took a sabbatical, went to IIM Cal, learned about management, learned about NPV, financing. Everything was
Right,
done, and I
right.
ended up into gas as GM commercial. That's the journey of where I landed into gas. Then that company, then it was a British gas company. It slowly changed its hand, became the government of Gujarat company. I became a class one officer of government of Gujarat, worked for almost there in 15 years. And that was a time when I had to do some changes in life in terms of knowledge, in terms of new avenues, and also in terms of pay packet. Because what happened, my slope, which was going northwards in salary, suddenly became capped because it was a government organization. Children were growing up, and I had to take care of expenses. I thought, let's try something new. That's the thing when the promoters met and we break upon this idea of having something to be done in liquefied natural gas.
I see.
And
Okay.
that's the journey of how I landed up into LNG. And I've never sold LNG before this company, but yes, I sold only gas. The it's like I know water very well, but I don't know how to sell ice. So I started learning how to sell ice now. So liquefied form of the natural gas.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Thank you
What a
very much,
journey!
sir.
What a journey! What a journey! What a journey! So I want to ask you, if you have to start all over again, will you follow the same path, different path? What would you do differently?
See, generally what happens, Ravindra, life is all about constraints.
Hmm.
People call it fate or naseeb.
Hmm.
In mathematical terms, it is constraint. That one constraint will lead for a decision to move into another constraint. Given a free-flowing attitude, if I would have given, I would have become a pilot. I would
Ah,
have,
okay.
I would have only flown Boeings and all the big birds in life.
I see. I see. Okay, that's where
So,
your interest is. So
yeah, that
you can still pursue that. I mean, you can still do that. So I have
I'm
a
earning
friend,
money. Yeah, I'm earning money to get a CPL. I will.
So I have a friend in the US, of my age. I think he learned flying and got a license only, I think, 2, 3 years back.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
that's you have given me a new kindle in my passion.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I don't know how easy it is in the US versus India. I'm sure in the US was more easier.
Easier.
But
It is easier.
yeah, yeah.
Because one of my junior is actually working for Boeing there.
Okay.
So he's into the radar business. He also had aspiration to become a pilot. And his
Uh-huh.
father was Air India's chief engineer.
Oh, okay.
So we exchange a lot of terms, a lot of languages in terms of flying.
Uh-huh.
So and along with him, I went into Jet Airways simulator, which
Uh-huh.
was kept at NSC. Earlier, it used to be at NSC. So we have
Right, right,
flown a
right.
Boeing 747 then. It was
Okay,
737.
okay,
737.
okay.
But okay, that's if I get unwind and I can reset my life.
Oh, wow. Great, great, wonderful. Now, in terms of supply chain management, do you have any advice to the listeners, from your experience, your career, what they should be doing, what they should be looking for, what skill set they should be developing?
So, Ravindra, in my team, if you see, I have mix of engineers and commerce graduates. I even have
Mm-hmm.
arts graduates. I believe that skill can be acquired, can be honed, can be pushed, and can be, gained. So, in whatever field people are, if they want to pursue anything in a particular area, domain, you should know only three things about it. Why of that particular field? Means if I talk about in logistics, the why means why is logistics existing? It's only for people. People are not going to die suddenly. So this business is, Ajivan. It will continue to end of its life. So the
Right.
demand will be. Second is how of it. How means you have to now decide in this whole system, how will you contribute? You will contribute as commercial, you will contribute as a driver, you will contribute as a freight owner, you will truck owner, you will contribute as the brain behind it to design the whole network, to design the lanes, to optimize it. So people will have to put their thoughts very clearly. What do they have to do? And the third thing in any business when you want to pick it up is what will it bring in for me? Salary you may get in supply chain management, you may get in oil fueling, you may get even by doing a trade of breads or milk. So important is what will I get in it for it commercially and for my satisfaction of something called as mind. So my only advice is whatever you do it with full passion. Try and see that you understand the science behind logistics. If you know the science, you need not be a science graduate.
Right,
I can
right.
assure you, I have seen people excelling who have never gone to science school, but they understand the statistics of moving lane 1 to lane 2 to lane 3 because lane 3 is giving better revenue returns. I push everything to lane 3. So supply chain management or any business finally is what is the bottom line that you're bringing back to the industry. If you have it, you are the winner. If you cannot get it, you are in wrong business, or your promoter has put money on wrong set of people.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Maqsood. There are a lot of questions, and I think I'll stop here. You gave a great insight about green mobility, and even some of the information was very new for me. We actually know from whatever we hear from the news, from the market, whatever is going on. But good to have insight from, I think I would say horse's mouth. That's what I would say. So there are a lot of questions, and I'll hand over to Nistush to ask questions because I think there are 4 or 5 questions are there and long ones, I think. So Nistush, can you take over? Thank you so much, Maqsood.
Yes, I'm ready to be shorted down with questions.
Okay, so sir, this is Rashmi here from KnoWerX
Rashmi, yeah, go ahead.
Education. So I'll be taking the questions one by one.
Okay.
Okay, so the first question that we have is from Mr. Harshit Tripathi. He has asked, how do we ensure, how do we ensure that the electricity used for EVs comes from renewable resources to maximize environmental benefits as still we use coal to generate electricity?
Yeah. So there is no assurance method today that can be given by anybody that what is the source of electricity that is coming. Because 71% of electricity produced in India is thermal. Now, it's up to the electricity charger provider or the service provider to put a green tag over it that he is or it is using, the company is using electricity that is generated and been either swapped or been traversed through transmission lines to their charging station and offsetting the energy that was produced in green area, that is in terms of wind or in terms of any other sources like solar or even the SMR. So that is an issue that has to be tackled. Morally, we are using EVs under the garb that we are saving for our future, for our next generation. But unconsciously, we are contributing to increased demand of thermal power itself.
Right.
Thank you for answering the question, sir. There is another question from Mr. Ram. He has mentioned that good insights on sustainability, it is need of the day to maximize green mobility. But big question is how to scale it up and how we logistician can contribute towards it. Your answer, sir?
Sir, scale up is by way of demand and adaptation. Since nobody was doing it between 2015, while I was in government then, up to 2019, because the go-to market was that what is there in it for me was not been answered. Today we have answered that question that without losing your bottom lines, you can still contribute 30% emission. If this message goes across through the association, I'll cite one example. I was in Raipur with GAIL. GAIL is Government of India's arm which is trading gas. So when we were addressing the association for steel, the problem they came up is if I fire steel with gas, it is very expensive for smelting and for melting. But if I do it with coal, I can compete internationally. But now internationally, everybody asks for green steel. And there was a measure in which the green steel is defined. So I told them, you continue using coal because you have to survive, but you move your transport to green. So what happens? Then automatic switch is there for them to become a green steel by way of the carbon emission that is reduced. So that way, particular association can have an insight. I will be very happy to assist looking at what are the avenues in which we can address without impacting the bottom lines. How can we ask people to go green? And that would be the contribution of association to provide a platform to bring in knowledge to their members that without getting extra money or putting extra money, you can still turn green. Yeah, Rashmi.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for that answer. We have another question again from Mr. Harshit. Uh, the rise of green mobility will significantly impact petrol or diesel cars and subsequently petrochemicals companies. Though SCM professionals will definitely have an edge in terms of job availability, what will be your advice for technical petrochemical workforce? Your answer, sir?
So the skill set of technical petrochemicals people is exactly required for even electricity or even for the skill set remains the same. Knowledge may be different. As I told you, I'm an electrical engineer, moved to gas, I shared the story. You can acquire the skills anytime, it's a switchover. But let me assure you, all the petrochemicals will not go bankrupt, nor the petrol pumps will overnight stop. As I told you, it is very, very difficult to switch over overnight. The average life is of the vehicles is 15 years. So it will be very, very difficult to overnight say that 15 years fresh vehicle should be grounded and everybody should move to EV. There will be a gradual change. The gradual change will be a generation. In that generation, nowadays people say, why should I do engineering? I will do AI engineering. So the generation is moving towards it. There will be no lack of jobs for sure. There will be transition of petrochemicals which were producing earlier petrol diesel to focus on producing hydrogen more. They will be using methane and cracking it to bring hydrogen more. So it will be a slow change. It cannot be a switch that will impact everybody on this earth. And if somebody is creating that havoc, I'm telling you, it is nothing but rumor mongering.
Thank you for that wonderful answer, sir. We have another question from Mr. Manoj, but I think it's the same question like Mr. Harshit Tripathi had asked. How can we ensure that the electricity used to power electric vehicles comes from renewable resources, given that a significant portion of our current electricity generation still relies on coal? So I think Mr. Manoj, yes, he's got that answer.
Yeah, thanks, Manoj.
Yes, so I think we are done with the questions, sir. Is there anybody else who has any question? Then please mention in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself.
Or if you don't want to type in the question, you can unmute and you can ask the question, please.
I think people have exhausted questions.
Hey,
Maybe they want to come back and sit with you.
Yeah, I think no more questions now. I think. Yeah.
Yes, sir. So no more questions. So I think we can wind up. You have to say something, Ravi, sir.
No, thank you so much, Maqsood. Thank you so much. It was wonderful talk, wonderful talk, and a lot of insights, a lot of information. I look forward to doing another talk with you sometime in the future. Thank you so much.
I look forward, and thanks for providing me this opportunity. It was my maiden today, by the way. This is the first time where I've been on any talk show. And thanks for your kind-heartedness, you gave this opportunity. You take care.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Have a nice evening. Thank you very much. And
thank you. Bye. Have a nice weekend, everyone.
Thank you for joining.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone, for joining. Bye-bye. Have a great day ahead.
Bye-bye.